students, welcome back to my class. Today we are going to study one of the poems from Jayanta Mahapatra. The title of the poem is The Captive Heir of Chandipur-on-sea. As you know, Mahapatra is one of the most prolific and significant poet of 20th century who explored the uncertainties and intricacies of life through his vivid presentation of the common realities within his poems. His poems also put the quintessential questions of our living experiences, and by using free verse, irregular stanza patterns, colloquial tone, he produces the magical effects of a poet who sings the song of humanity in its most essential sense, in a very comprehensive manner. This particular poem, Chandipur-on-sea, it depicts basically the struggle between man and nature, with the seascape at the background at Chandipur. Like many other poems in this particular aspect, which we can take into account, like the Victorian poet Arnold, his famous poem Dover Beach, or the poems of Dylan Thomas, or maybe that of Coleridge, Tennyson. This poem also explores the history of that struggle between man and the sea, and how both are trying to overpower each other, but still they are not apart. Every time they throw out each other, the next moment they again venture into each other to explore. So this poem brings out the moods of happiness, the craving, the forlorn feeling, as well as the sense of furious associated with the vast sea. Before going into the poem, let me just discuss about the significance of this struggle and the Chandipur sea beach. Chandipur is a sea beach in the eastern part of the India, that is in Odisha, and it is a magical sea beach where the water of the sea sometimes recedes back for miles together, exposing the seabed that is shallow, and again it recaptures all those land with its rippling waves. So it is one of the most fascinating place for tourists, all the ages. And another aspect that the poet is probably associating with this poem is the nostalgic memory of the glorious maritime history of Odisha, which once spread from the coasts of Southeast Asia to the far away countries. So this historical struggle between man and nature is recaptured in this poem in a very beautiful manner. Let us look at the poem. Day after day, the drunk sea at Chandipur spits out the gauze wings of sails along the beach and rumples the thin air behind the sands. The poet immediately compares the sea, visualizes the sea as a drunk, means who is very much possessed with its own power, its own expression, unmindful of others' presence. So the sea is a dominant power, is a dominant force. So day after day, and it is moving ceaselessly, continuously, both creating a sense of apprehension as well as appreciation from man. It entices man, invites man to explore it, and on the other hand, it also creates the terror in his heart. So day after day, the drunk sea of Chandipur spits out the gauze wings of sail. The waves coming and lashing at the seashore and throwing out various sea creatures like the sails and other weeds. They are thrown as if they are just like the gauze wings. They are having the gauze wings, they are very light. But this lightness on their part is being reflected by the might of the sea. The might of the sea throws them from its own belly to the seashore as if they are very light, and rumples the thin air behind the sands. And this continuous movement of the waves with its powerful noise and movement rumples, disturbs the thin air behind the sands that are there on the sea beach. They are being disturbed, the air is being pushed, and the sands are being replaced from one place to another. Nothing the sea allows to settle down. The sea unsettles everything. That is the scenario here. Who can tell the sons of the sea that go on to battle and double the space around our lives? And the poet is asking the question that who can tell the song of this sea? What is the song of this sea? Is it a song of happiness? Is it a song of sorrow? Is it a song of forlornness? Is it a song of cry or aggression? So he is telling, who can tell the songs of the sea that go on to baffle and double the space around our lives? It baffles. No one can take for granted the mood of the sea, nor the spirit of the sea. If now it is calm and quite serene and beautiful, the very next moment it can be most devastating and dangerous. So it baffles. It is both alluring and expulsive. And it doubles the space around our lives. So what is this double the space? Our space on the land, our relations in our lives, this is the one space. And another space is created in the sea. As you know, the sea covers more than 3/4 of this earth. And right from the beginning, man has explored the sea and is exploring the sea And the sea constitute a great part of human history. So it creates another space for our life. The poet is asking the double the space around our lives. It enlarges our life. It enlarges our living experiences. It brings out a new space or of smells paralyzed through the centuries, of deltas hard and white that stretched once to lure the feet of women bidding their men goodbye. Or the song of the sea may be smelling of something that is paralyzing through the centuries. For centuries, man is making attempt to conquer the sea, to dominate the sea, to explore the sea. But for these centuries, every time man is being dominated, defeated, and decimated by the sea as well. And man and his nations, they have all been lost in the womb of the sea. In this context, I can refer to the example of the Titanic, as all of you know. So where it goes into the belly of the sea, the depth of the sea, the smell of that. So not only the Titanic, thousands, millions of boats and ships are drowned within the sea. How many lives are lost? So they have become the part of the smell of the sea. So, or of the smells paralyzed, and the moment we think of that, death and destruction, it paralyzes, it numbs our body and mind. Stretched once to lure the feet of women bidding their men goodbye. And there are also deltas within the sea. Chandipur coast is having some deltas. And these deltas in those ancient times were functioning as the natural harbors. They lured, they invited men to explore the sea by taking the help of these deltas, the shallow water of the sea, from where they can set sail their ships. So this lure of the feet of women, bidding their men goodbye. Women were going and bidding their men goodbye. In Odisha, there is still a ritual being observed on the full moon day of Indian month of Kartik, the Boit Bandhan, or the worship of the ship to set sail for the foreign lands. In ancient days, in the maritime history of Odisha, the merchants, they started their journey on this particular day, and women went and offered all the ritualistic prayers and other things there in the sea and bid their men goodbye. So the poet is recounting those historic experiences, those ritualistic activities in this poem. Or of salt and light that dark and provocative eyes demand it. Or sometimes we may find in that song of the sea the salt and light that dark and provocative eyes demand it. Or the men who ventured into the sea, they were reminded of their hard labor, because journey through the sea is one of the most difficult tasks. The unending sea, Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. That poem from Coleridge, ancient mariner, brings out the hardship of the seafarers. So that salt, here salt suggesting that hard labor, and light suggesting their realization that they had ventured, but suddenly they realize that they have left behind their home, they have left behind their love, their life, every value of life behind. And dark and provocative eyes demanded, the dark and provocative eyes of their woman behind, they left. How these women must be demanding that they should not go, they should be there with them. But these men, they have ventured to conquer the sea, to visit new lands, and to do their trade and commerce, and to prosper. Their shoulders drooping like lotus in the noonday sun, and by the noon times, or in the middle of the sea, the moment they realize these truths of life and face the hardships of life in the sea, their shoulders droop, their spirits go down, they feel drenched both in their physical and mental spirit. Just like the poet is comparing with the simile lotus in the noonday sun, as the lotus flower, which is so vibrant in the morning, it droops in the harsh sunlight in the noon. So, in the mid-sea, the sailors, the seafarers, those who started their journey with great enthusiasm, great sense of adventure, lose their spirit. And what is it near that scatters the tide in the shadow of this proud watercourse? And now the poet is observing, when the water of the sea at Chandipur is receding for miles and miles, it throws back on its seabed, scattered all over, those things which it has in its belly, and that exposes, that shows what is there in the sea. The sea from the surface looks so clean, so beautiful, so vibrant, but somewhere in the depth of the sea is hiding all those sorrow, all those tragedies, all those deaths, and they are now scattered like the dead cells. When the cells are alive, they are there within the water, but when the cells are dead, the water of the sea throws it or leaves behind on the shore. So the poet is asking, what is it near now that scattered the tide in the shadow of this proud watercourse? Once upon a time, this was a proud watercourse. Till now, Chandipur-on-sea is an important part of the Indian coastline. This is a proud watercourse, and as you know, that now the Indian government has established since 2002 the test range of missiles, which is one of the important centers of Indian defense. So Chandipur-on-sea is a proud water source, but what it is scattering behind, the poet is not only meaning the dead cells or those things that come out from the sea, but also the memories, how it is leaving behind those past memories, memories of loss. The ridicule of the dead, is it ridiculing the dead people? who have lost their lives in exploring the sea? Is the sea ridiculing them by throwing on its sea beach the parts of their tools, the parts of their venture? Susurrun sails still whisper. The sails of the ships, of their boats, that still whispering in the air, fluttering in the air. Legends on the horizon, who are you? Occupant of the silent sigh of the conch. And the poet is remembering about the legends on the horizon. Who are you? Those legendary characters in the history of mankind, in the history of maritime Odisha of the past. So the poet is asking, who are you? Occupant of the silent sigh of the conch, which is used as an auspicious tool of Indian rituals, and particularly, as I told, in the farewell ceremony of these seafarers by the women of Odisha. Now, the poet is asking, who are the occupants of the silent sigh of the conch? The conch declared that they will set their sail, they will venture on their journey, but some lost their lives. They didn't come back. Now those conch is silent. The sound of the conch is silent. So who are these silent people? That the poet is trying to know. Are they there, scattered on the sea beach? The ground seems only a memory now, a torn breath. The ground here, it only seems a memory. The glory of the past is no more. That glorious maritime history of Odisha is lost. After the advent of the British, they destroyed this glorious tradition of people of Odisha. And as we wait for the tide to flood the mud flats, but people are still waiting when that time will come. The British have left, but Odisha fails to bring its glory back, bring its past back. The song that reaches our ears is just our own. But now, the song that is coming from the sea, it is just our own. Here, the reference is to the ritualistic observation of that glorious day of setting sail for the foreign land on the full moon day of Kartik. So this song is our own song, and we are listening to it. We are trying to remind ourselves of our glorious past. We are trying to revive us, but we have not been able to. The cries of fishermen come drifting through the spray, but people are still going into the sea. But these are not the merchants. These are not the seafarers. These are the fishermen who live by the sea, and for their living every day they are venturing into the sea. So the cries of fishermen come drifting through the spray. Now also the sounds of these people who are in the sea comes, but these are the fishermen and their cries. Music of what the world has lost. But the poet is feeling nostalgic that music of the past, which was so glorious a past, which was bringing such a glory and prosperity, is now lost. Music of what the world has lost. The final line of the poem is like that of Arnold's double pitch. There is sadness that we have somewhere lost. But at the same time, the poet is talking about the eternal struggle between man and nature, where man is losing because man is so powerless a creature in front of the so vast and powerful nature manifested through the ocean, the sea. So this is one of the most beautiful poems by Jayanta Mahapatra. And from this poem, we can expect questions like how Mahapatra has presented the past with the present of human struggle against the sea. And also there can be a question regarding what are the panoramic view that Mahapatra is exploring in this seascape at Chandipur. So I hope you people will do justice to the poem, and we will be discussing more. If you need